As the smartest man in the room, and statistically in most rooms, I feel a moral obligation to tell you to do something and then have you do it, and then that is to fully support and buy Dragon Quest VII. But only the remake, because we're not Luddites here. Because Dragon Quest VII is exactly how remakes and remasters should be done. Full stop, end of discussion, court adjourned. No bloat, no padding. No 3-part saga stretched across a decade because somebody in marketing discovered humans can live a long time. And especially Japanese humans, also statistically. So better to milk the shit out of these cows for the next decade with something they didn't even want. What was I talking about again? Whatever, it couldn't have been important.
Does that make me a dumbass?
Dragon Quest VII is a respectful, thoughtful update of a game that already worked and is aimed squarely at people who actually like playing video games instead of being slowly herded through them like content cattle. Not nostalgia bait. Not exactly. Not a museum piece. Not especially. But functioning design philosophy that says, hey, what if we took the game you like, making it easier to look at and play, and then shut the hell up and left you alone with your grieving of the passage of a titan of our age. Which coincidentally is exactly why you should trust me when I say this is the gold standard, and why you should absolutely support this practice if you want.
Chits.
Well, this basically. Looks vaguely ominous. Dude, I'm a peasant, I can't read.
Something will happen!
I just want to go home, till my land, f my wife, make illiterate babies, and not go on any adventures because the average life expectancy for a fisherman's serf is 23, and I'm at least 12 already.
Such a wimp.
Anyway, as the handsomest man in the room, and yes, this is relevant, I know pretty when I see it. Dragon Quest VII is pretty. Not as in melt your PC with reflective polygons you don't even see, because I don't f***ing buy games to admire my own reflection in puddles.
Lucky. You are yet lucky.
But in the way that actually matters, looking like a lovely crafted diorama about mute morons being herded on life or death journeys nobody asked for because apparently there's f*** all else to do in the medieval fairy tale kingdom of whenever the series actually gets stretched out. Considerably, because this is a slow burn of a beginning and I'm pretty sure it's an hour before I even get to stand in line to hit something, which is unusual for the series, and you start off beating ghosts with a wooden stick, which hardly does justice to the soft 3D presentation and immaculate character design that somehow becomes even more recognizable in this art style. Absolutely perfect form here, differentiated by the now ubiquitous 2.5D or HD2D style you see in games like Octopath Traveler. F*** you, that entire series was supposed to be a precursor to the one we actually want. So where the f*** is it, Square? Painterly nostalgic, working beautifully for games that want to evoke sprite era comparisons, but this Dragon Quest was a 3D game, and I'm starting to think all the 3D games that look like 3D shit now can do with a remake in this style of literative and figurative depth. With softened lighting, slightly storybook proportions, and restraint because it doesn't try to modernize itself into something it isn't by chasing realism and sweat pores. No visual noise, not spectacle for spectacle's sake, just art direction doing its job quietly and effectively. Like me at a dinner party where everybody else is trying too hard. No, seriously, I've talked enough about how pretty this game looks. When does it actually start? Oh, it's starting now. Oh shit, it's the girl. She found our secret clubhouse. Now we have to let her in or else she'll tell on us. No, that is the actual plot. What is this shit? Written for preschoolers? What the f*** is that?
Huh?
As the richest man in the room, I obviously have very high standards and impeccable taste. I also strictly vote conservative. Because if it ain't broken, I need to maintain the status quo lest the plebs get uppity again. And that's why Dragon Quest VII is exactly my kind of game because it doesn't f*** around. Doesn't do anything really except stick to what's already there and has worked for the past however long it took for this game to become embedded into Japanese culture in such a way that if you ever deviate from formula, the emperor himself comes over to your house and orders your summary execution to set an example. What that means is standing in a line whacking each other with the aforementioned sticks while classical 8-bit sound effects play, sometimes reorganized, with an actual orchestra, presumably as a part of the Japanese government's artistical outreach program for starving musicians, and paradoxically leveling up and never explaining how village urchins gain incredible deadly mastery over the elements by beating the shit out of cartoon eggplants, which is par for the course for the series, but the likable characters and character design, especially rest in peace Maestro, do a lot to alleviate the deliberately slower paced gameplay that some of you have taken to wearing like a comfort blanket for the last decades.
Excuse me, miss. Whatever your name is.
Same goes for the plot as far as I can tell. Basically One Piece imagined by Akira Toriyama. We miss you every day, master of the wholesome perverted arts. Mixed with that one part in Dragon Ball where Vegeta learns from a tragic time machine, he's destined to the hottie, so I don't know why he's complaining. By which I mean every island you go to has a really tragic story attached. You untragic the tragedy usually by showing everybody if they were just nicer or braver or inclined to get off their ass to actually do something with their lives. All that tragedy can be prevented, upon which time you go back to the present to revisit the same island and see how much things have changed, and now everybody is getting really worked up about 3 or 4 idiots who came over on a religious mission 100 years ago to teach natives the power of friendship. And again, no, that really is mostly the plot, which votes entirely to keep housing prices high because I already got mine, so f you, whippersnapper.
What's that?
What the f am I supposed to do? Oh, okay. I told you I'm the smartest guy here. Oops, I think I was getting ahead of myself there. Better self-flagellate with these wooden sticks as punishment. Anyway, also as the most financially savvy man in the room, I'm telling you this kind of remake is also the only one that makes any kind of goddamn sense economically. Because Dragon Quest VII proves that you don't need to light hundreds of millions of dollars on fire to deliver a compelling modernized experience. You don't need to rebuild an entire game from scratch, split it into multiple releases, and then act surprised when people start asking where the f the rest of it is. Fuck you. You just need a clear scope, a competent team, and the humility to not turn every project into a vanity production, by which I'm totally not taking any well-deserved shots at this fucking trash heap of ongoing obligation and garbage minigames.
Am I intolerant too?
Where you're expected to play the piano with somehow just your thumbs. Motherfucker, you know what? No, I'm not letting this go. Don't go anywhere.
You might want to go first.
To think if FS7 had been remastered like DQ7 had the good sense of doing, we would already be playing a whole game by now with no dumbass cliffhangers, no filler except for what was already present in the original, and no existential dread about whether you'll be alive long enough to see it being finished. I don't think I'm alone in saying I wouldn't mind playing a handcrafted miniature version of an all-time classic, especially one that can better evoke the spirit of nostalgia that made me open my wallet in the first place, and this way maybe y'all could have made some actual f***ing video games instead of running scams to recoup investments that something the remake is terrible, with the only saving grace being as always Tifa's tits, but we have plenty of porn for that, so what the f*** is even the point? Trust me, we're almost done here. The English accents make the whole game sound like a Monty Python sketch.
And it's not a new continent, you bonehead.
Bring out your dead!
1, 2.
What? So, as the most sensible man in the room, and frankly the only one still paying attention, the conclusion is obvious. This Dragon Quest VII remaster is excellent, respecting the original, modernizing intelligently, or not at all because honestly I couldn't tell, and looking beautiful without screaming for validation. A complete package you should totally buy because we all need to encourage practical, responsible spending in game development. And because Square already played the demo and said it was good, so other stupider, uglier, poorer, and less financially responsible people can be convinced to buy it, so where the f is my FF6 and Chrono Trigger remakes already?